Much, Udita. I really appreciate the generosity in all the kind words that you've said about me. And I'm very excited to be with the first year students because sharing with young minds is something I absolutely enjoy because I get to have a new perspective on their thought process, how they want to change the world, what is it that they foresee as their own future, how do they want to create it. So I was requested to take up a topic and speak on learning to lead, right? And I think the university wanted the young first year students to hone in some skills over the next 4 years that you're going to be in this university, or the next 3 years, to understand how you can be an effective leader and how you can bring a change not just in your own circle, your own community, your own state, but worldwide. So I would like to start by first sharing about leaders who have inspired me. What are the qualities of those leaders that I have personally tried to inculcate in my own life as having run a company for 20 years, two companies. So I have been in a position where I have to lead my peers, my subordinates, and those who work with me. What has worked for me, what has been the best practices, and what has made me a more effective and a better leader, and I would say more importantly a better human being, right? So the first thing is, when we start our journey, right, and you're moving into adulthood, you're moving into, this is the first phase of your career when you get into a university. And if early on in life you start to build these leadership qualities, you start to hone them within yourself, by the time you graduate out of the university, you will find that you have the power not just to achieve whatever that you want, but to enroll people in your ideas and your vision, and how you can influence them to do things that you aspire to do and to do it with you. So it's a collective effort also. So if we see, I personally feel that all of us are leaders in our own way. Some of us lead at home, some in corporates, some in their friend circles, some in their schools, some in social circles, but in every scenario and every situation that you have, somebody or the other in the group emerges out as a leader, right, in a small way or a big way. And we find our own unique domain in which we lead. So in a nutshell, we all have the leadership skills and qualities within us. And what makes a good leader is that they are able to rise above thinking just of themselves and work for a greater common good, have a larger vision, enroll people in their vision, and lead by influence and their own actions. That, in a nutshell, is an effective leader. Now, a leader always needs to lead by influence and not by imposing fear or power. The true leadership is when people want to follow you, and not when you're showing a stick for people to follow you. It's not about being in charge, but it's about taking care of those who you are in charge of. So it's always about doing for others, creating paths for others, creating success for others, and in that becomes your success. And that's what born leaders do. So I'll tell you an interesting story about a few great leaders in the world that we all like to read and talk about. And I'll start with Gandhiji. I love to read about him, and he's been a very strong influence for me personally, his leadership qualities and his values. So it was under his guidance and his leadership that the freedom movement in India gained momentum, ultimately leading to India's independence in 1947. All of us know that. So he has been a source of inspiration and a role model for not only the common man, but various other world leaders such as Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela as well. They all give examples of Gandhiji's leadership qualities. So what was Gandhiji like as a leader? Right? Did he come out in Armani suits and drive a Mercedes Benz and have everyone admire, oh my God, who's this hotshot? No, far from it. He was a simple man leading a simple life, but strongly believed in and practiced the values of unity, equality, truth, non-violence, justice, and honesty. He was patient but persistent. Okay, please remember these words that I'm saying because we're going to take it up again. He was patient but persistent. While he was defiant, resistant, daring, and stood up for wrong, he always did it by remaining calm, caring, humble, and polite. Aggression, bad-mouthing, yelling did not exist in his dictionary. Gandhiji was able to influence the masses because he was a man of his words and always practiced what he preached. He won respect and trust through his actions. So one day, there's a very interesting story about him. One day he gets up and he tells people, all the people who were his followers, listen, aaj kaam pe koi nahi jayega. Don't go to work today so that we can get our freedom. 1 million people that day didn't show up for work. And who were these people? These were people who would work one day to get, end of the day, their daily wages so they could go buy food and put food on the table for their families. They were poor people, people living below poverty line, but people who believed in Gandhi. They risked their lives and the well-being of their families just to follow one thing that he said, don't go to work today. All because that one man said so. For 40 years, what Gandhiji said, he always did. And people believed in him. They knew that there was a power to his word and what he said. So his word was the law in the universe for India's poor. So did the person who was poor and who did not go to work understand how not going to work would get his freedom? No, he didn't. Did he know why he was risking his life and his family's well-being? No. And if you asked him, he would say, Gandhiji ne bola, so it shall be. Because Gandhiji asked me not to go to work, I didn't go to work. There's no other reason. The power of his leadership was such that he would say something and the entire India would stand up and follow it. Without questioning, without asking, because they believed that he would get them the freedom they so wanted. So the lesson to be learned here from this story is that this power lies within each one of us. If you're honest and practice what you believe in and what you preach to others, people will always hold you up in high regard and moral ground, and you will be able to influence them easily. So while you are starting the first year of your next 4 years in this college, keep this in mind, that every word that you say, people are seeing whether you live by that word or you don't. So what kind of a leader do you want to be? What kind of a person do you want to be? Somebody that people say, "Arey, isne bola hai, chodo, he'll never show up." Or somebody that people say, "Arey, isne bola hai, so the work will be done because I know he stands and lives by his word." The way Gandhiji led. So there are some qualities about being a leader. So being a leader is not easy. There's a lot of things you have to give up, which seems like an easy way to be, but it's not always the right way to be. So being a leader first means that you drop your ego, which is the I in you. which all of us love to inflate and talk about and always want to propagate more about, right? It means taking accountability for not just all your actions, but also the actions of others who work for you in your team and whom you lead. So if you are in a group class and you happen to be the leader of your group, then if somebody screws up in that group for that homework or for the assignment, you don't point fingers at them. You take accountability and ownership for having failed to submit that group work and say, I did wrong and I take responsibility. You don't put your team members to hang in dry. So if they do great, if your people, if your group members do great, the credit belongs to them. But if they do anything wrong, the buck stops at you. You take the accountability. So as a leader, you have to be ready to give the credit, to give the accolades, to give the praises to your team members and to others. But to take the blame, but to take responsibility of what didn't go right on your own. And that requires a lot of strength of character. And if you have the mettle to give credit to others while you take responsibility for the things that go wrong, then yes, each one of you are born to be a great leader. Good leaders are also those who are open to ask for help and saying that they don't know it all. They don't want to control others, but they just want to take care of others and lead them to be the best versions of themselves in whatever they do. And what do I mean by this and how it is pertaining to you in your lives is that a lot of times, and including me because I've gone through college, when the teacher would ask something and I didn't know, especially when I went to B school, I went straight out of college and there were so many students who came with 10 years of work experience, 3 years of work experience, and they knew a lot more than I did. So when the teacher would ask a question, everyone would look as though they knew everything. And I would be like, I have no clue what they're talking about. But I was so hesitant to put up my hand and ask that, can you explain this? Because I was shy and I was scared that everyone would laugh at me. That they would be like, how did she land up here? She doesn't even know this much. But later what I learned was that the true power is when you can authentically stand up in front of thousands of people or your entire class and say, no matter how dumb you may sound to others, the genuinity of you comes out because you come and say, I don't know this. So can you please explain it to me because I'd like to learn about it. And it's fine. And you'll realize this, that when you tell people that you don't know this, when you show your vulnerability to them, people are so willing to help, whether it's your professors, whether it's your classmates, whether it's an industry veteran that you're going and saying to, that sir, I don't know this. Can you help me understand? More than often, people will come and they will help you and they will give their time to you so you can understand. So drop that sense of I and sense of, oh, are they going to laugh? Will I be a laughing stock? I have to show to everyone that I have my life in control. I know everything. I'm the smartest kid in this college. No. Be who you are, and that's how you will become a good leader. Because when you tell people you don't know, people will start to tell you too that they don't know and they're not perfect. And that's how you get them to open up to you. So one of the things is dropping our guards and being vulnerable when we are good leaders, and to always let others know that you're also there willing to help them if they don't know. Never laughing on others, even if you feel that that was something very basic they should have known. Never pulling out somebody and pointing on them because they didn't know something. But being forthcoming and proactive and walking up to people and telling them, look, you said that you didn't know this, but if you need help, I can help you. And that's how you will enroll them into being somebody who admires you and somebody who will follow you. The second important quality of a good leader is to listen deeply and listen to the unsaid. Now, what is unsaid? So there is things that we hear and we listen, what is being spoken. So right now you can hear what I'm speaking. But there's a lot that can be heard by just watching me, understanding me, and listening to my unsaid, which I'm not speaking, through my body language, through my actions, right? So good leaders not just hear what is being said, but they also hear and intuitively absorb what is not being said in the conversation. They listen deeply and show to others that they care. So always hold your temptation to give your opinion and to be the first one to speak. And that's our natural tendency as human beings, right? So a professor or somebody will say, or you go out with your friends in a group and you want to show how smart you are. So you want to be the first one to speak. You always want to give your opinion about something. You don't have to. What good leaders do is they keep quiet and they are the last ones to speak. So once Nelson Mandela was asked, how did he learn to be a great leader? And you know what he said? He said, I learned to speak last from my father, and he was a great leader. That's what he taught me. That be the last to speak. Just be there in a group. Allow others to speak. Don't give your judgments and your opinions. Let them speak their mind. Be there with them to support them, to hear them. And at the end, you speak what you think is right or how things can be done better without pointing fingers at anyone else. Because nobody is wrong. It's everyone's own opinion and thought process. And yours could be different. But your way could be to show them where you stand and what you believe in. So again, as a good leader, resist the temptation to always be the first one to enter and want to conquer the entire conversation, but try and be more quiet, listen, allow others to speak, and then speak last. The next quality about a leader that I'd like to share is developing patience. Now, patience is a virtue that I think the young generation needs to learn more than ever, because we have been born in the world of instant gratification. The Facebook likes, the thumbs ups. It's hard to find the virtue of patience within ourselves. We want everything to happen now, instantly, at lightning speed. But we must remember that a good leader knows that everything good takes time to manifest. Whether it is an ideal job, whether it is finding love, whether it is job satisfaction, becoming a master at what you do, making an impact in this world, or developing certain skills. It is all a part of an arduous journey, and all you need to have is the will and desire and the patience for it. So here I'll give you an example of Jack Ma of Alibaba. Most of you have heard of Alibaba, right? So Jack Ma said in one of his interviews that he was rejected by Harvard 10 times. He was rejected by 40 companies for job applications, including KFC. So 24 people went for an interview, 23 were selected, and the 24th person who was not selected was him. Right? So when he started Alibaba, the company did not make a single dollar in revenue for the first 3 years. Single dollar in revenue. But he was patient. He knew that he was working hard. He knew he had a passion for what he was doing. He loved what he was doing. And he knew it was changing the lives of others. People who were selling on it, people who were buying on it. And he had a desire to do something, a purpose. So he didn't lose hope because he was losing revenues. He persevered. He had patience. So as a leader, and today you see what Alibaba is, right? All of us know how big he is. So as a leader, you must learn perseverance. People will say no. You may not get what you really worked hard for at times. Sometimes you feel you've studied a lot, but your grades don't match up to how much you studied. And that's okay. In your heart, as long as you know and you believe that you worked hard for it and you gave your best shot, and you know that hard work always pays off, and there will be a day when your time is right and things will start to happen. The grades will start to come in. The jobs that you aspire for will happen for you. So don't give up ever and never complain. Just keep doing. So one of the things as a leader is we don't complain, because every day we are firefighting. Running a company is not easy, and it's not glamorous or glorious, because behind the scenes what happens is the server crashed, you got to run and take care of it. The operation process, somebody's done a return or somebody's given you a bad review or some process is broken and your inventory is out of sync, you have to run take care of that. The marketing campaign is not working as you had hoped it would. So there's so many fires we are fighting every day. But we don't start yelling. We don't start yelling at our employees. They would run away. You don't start fighting or yelling at your teammates that you haven't finished your work and what are we doing and we're going to be late for our assignment. No, you keep yourself calm and collected. You work hard, even if it means working 23 hours in that day. And you have a game plan. This is how I'm going to execute it. And you sit calmly and you execute it and you bring your people together collectively to follow and execute. And that's how you will finish your assignments, and that's how you will emerge as a good leader in your group. Now, the next thing is that I would talk about a leader is that leaders always allow others to be. So a great leader never imposes their opinion or ideologies on others. But how they lead is they influence. They nurture the peer group to come into their own being and always be the best version of themselves. They are humble and grateful for having good people around them. They are not hesitant to say, please, can you help me? And nor are they ever hesitant to say, thank you for helping me. And thank you for a great job done. So again, resist the temptation of controlling others. You do this, you should have done this, you should have done that. Allow people to bring out their best skill sets and then figure out how can you fit it to a well-functioning engine so that it works beautifully with each person's individual skill sets, so that they are being the best version of themselves and then bringing out the best that you can in your group. So that's how you have to be. And then mostly, I keep saying this, leading by influence. Like Gandhiji and Nelson Mandela and many others, great leaders, they all led by influence. They all had big visions, not of the wealth that they are going to accumulate or the material possessions that they can buy, but of changing the world to be a better place, to eradicate poverty, to make an impact where they can alleviate the suffering of others. They looked beyond themselves and they wanted to work for the well-being of the greater good. And these leaders, they enrolled others in their vision. They gave other people who followed them a sense of purpose, and they led by example and the power of influence. They didn't dictate and say, you go do this, you go do that, and I'm sitting and I'm giving you dictation. No. They practiced. They acted on what they asked others to do. And that's how people believed in them, and that's how people followed them by choice and not by force. And lastly, I think the most important quality of a leader is that they are continuously evolving and growing. So nobody ever comes to a point, no big leader, no great leader who says, Ki, I am good now. I have accomplished everything that I wanted. I have all the knowledge in the world. I am where I wanted to be, and they stop growing. No. They are continuously evolving and growing. They have this thirst for knowledge, for being a better version of themselves every single day. So what I'll suggest to you, to all the students, is keep learning. Keep that thirst for knowledge always alive within yourself. Enroll in new subjects. Take interest in new things you don't know about. Get out of your comfort zone. If you're not good in marketing, then enroll in some marketing classes. If you're not good in computers and you get scared of technology, then make sure that you push yourself to go and enroll in some computer classes. Have gratitude for the education you are receiving, because many don't have that privilege to even go to a college and get that education. Read good books which inspire and motivate. Be disciplined. Arrive at your classes on time. Submit your assignments on time. Make an idea book and jot down any thoughts, any creative ideas that come to you and where you want to make an impact in this world. Keep writing it, because one day one of these ideas can be a breakthrough idea for your journey. Work hard and lead by action. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share about what I think, how you can learn to be a good leader, to be an effective leader. And a leader doesn't mean that they have to be old. A leader is anybody who's there in a group setting and who emerges as a person who can influence and bring out, like I said, the best in others. And you got to do that in a small setting, in a big setting. And I'll share my journey because, I have been an entrepreneur for 20 years and I have, worked with a lot of people who've worked for me, and through partnerships, through collaborations. What I have learned in my journey is, at the end of it, we build companies. It's very stressful. Building companies is not easy. And as a woman, I can say this, probably it's even harder because we are multitasking all the time. You're taking care of a job, you're taking care of your work, you're taking care of the house, you're taking care of your ambitions, because when you start a company, you want it to succeed. You're passionate about making it come to a certain level that you aspire it for. And you have to take care of children, you have to take care of your domestic life, you have to take care of parents, you have to take care of so many different arenas. And there are days which are hard. There are days when you just want to, give up, and you feel that is it ever going to happen? But the perseverance, the patience and the persistence always will get you through. It has always got me through. And I think being an entrepreneur has been the best gift of life to me, because it has allowed me to interact and work with such brilliant people who had amazing skill sets that I didn't have. I didn't make these companies successful. It is the entire group of people collectively that made the company successful. I could only do this much. I had a vision, but they enrolled in my vision and they helped to make it successful. And as a leader, there will be a lot of times when people will come and they will lash out to you. They will vent out to you because they are frustrated. And it becomes your job to just receive. It becomes your job to give them your positive energy and to allow them to just de-stress and calm themselves down. And that is something you have to understand is not personal for you, but it's something that they are going through. And they need somebody who they look up to take it out for. And that's when you stand up as a leader, you stand out and you allow them, like I said, you take the accountability and the blame for all the mistakes, for things that they don't go right. And all the credit that happens, you always stand up and say, he did this, it wasn't me. And that's when that person will feel, wow, it's fun to work with this person or with her or with him, because they don't want to hog the limelight. They don't want to take everything on their own. They want to give credit, and I like working that way. So create collaborations, create partnerships, and always seize opportunities. So when I was in LSR, I have a very interesting story. So my parents had this thing, they had told me once that the day you stop studying, we'll get you married. And I was really not ambitious at all, right? So I was so scared by that line that they had said to me, and I was a very good student in school, in college. I was just academically, I enjoyed my subjects and I was a good rote learner, so I did well. I kept studying. And because I studied, I got good marks, I got into LSR because my parents said that another criterion for you to study is you have to always go to the best colleges. Otherwise, we will not, let you study. So I went to LSR, and that time, the cutoff of LSR is really high. It's usually 95, 96% to get in. I got into LSR, and then I thought, oh my God, I'm still too young. I don't want to get married. So what was the next thing that I could do so that I could continue studying? MBA was a natural choice because I had taken up BCom honors. So I gave the competitive exams for the top 10 colleges in India, and I got through SP Gen, and I went to study. I was one of the youngest students in the college that time. And what I realized, there were a lot of girls in my college and in my school who didn't want to get out of the comfort zone. They were brilliant. They would have gotten into any college that they ever aspired for. But they were scared to get out of the city where they were so used to living. They were scared to move into a Bombay or a Delhi because it seemed like a scary city. So they let go of opportunities. And what worked for me was I seized every opportunity that came my way. The day McKinsey came to campus and they asked for resumes, I gave mine, right? And when I got through 9 rounds of interviews, so from 7 in the morning, I got my offer letter at 9 at night. And they didn't let us get out of that building. It was 9 interviews, one after the other. It was arduous, it was hard. And by end of the day, my brains were fried, right? And I thought if they don't give me a job, I'm going to just jump off this building. But when I got that job, it wasn't something just glamour. It was a lot of hard work. I worked 14 to 16 hours a day. I clocked that kind. I traveled countries, from one assignment to the other assignment, but I never said no. I didn't fear that, oh my God, I've never traveled to Europe, so how am I going to go there alone and what am I going to do and let somebody else go? No. I took it and I said, you know what, I'll figure it out. But I don't want to let go of this opportunity of learning. And I traveled. And that's how I grew. And then when I had this opportunity, or when this idea came to me that I love dancing, I'm into fitness, I have a business background, I can create a really big entrepreneurial venture out of marrying my interest of dance and fitness. And I'm not just a good dancer, I'm a good teacher. I stand by my instructional ability, that I can make people who actually say they have 2 left feet, I can make them dance and be great dancers. So I said I'm going to take that up and I'm going to create a big business out of it. Everyone, my parents were not happy about it. They were like, who quits a consulting job and takes up dancing as a career? Right? What are you going to earn? Were the questions that I heard. People said, oh, it's going to be like a garage class and then you're going to shut it down because you're going to start missing your paycheck. You're going to miss when you go shopping and you can't buy things because you're not earning enough. And I said, okay, I'll figure it out. I have the education. I can always get a job back. But I don't want to be in a situation where later I live with regrets that I didn't try. And honestly, I have to say this, full credit I will give to my husband, because he never imposed financial, like a financial contribution on me, that you have to work to run the house. He always said, look, I'm doing what I have to do. Why don't at least one of us do what they want to do? So if you have this idea, go ahead and do it. I'm backing you. It doesn't matter if you don't make money. And I took that risk because I had one person backing me. And in 4 years, I was teaching dance and wellness classes at Google, Oracle, Yahoo, Sun Microsystems, Cisco, you name the company in Silicon Valley, and I was everywhere. I was running 14 private dance classes and I had 8 instructors working for me across 7 cities. and we were everywhere. So if you thought of Bollywood or if you thought of anything Bhangra or dance fitness, you could only think of me or my dance classes. And when I sold my company, I had 450 registered students in just 4 years. And I was probably making, if not equivalent, but at least 60% or 70% close to what I would have made in a job. And what was I doing? I was working 2 hours a day, doing what I love doing. My equipment was what? My music on YouTube. It was like a party every single day. And my uniform was sweatpants. I didn't have to go shopping for like, oh my God, do I have a good business suit? But I just loved, and I was meeting people from all walks of life all over the world because I had created a unique USP and distinction for myself. And people who worked for me, who were my instructors, if I tell you their bios, it was unbelievable. One was a doctor at Stanford. One was working at Cisco. They were all employed in the big companies or universities in Silicon Valley, and I gave them the flexibility to work for me just 1 hour whenever they could as an instructor. So they could fulfill their passion for teaching, but they didn't have commitments. And of course, as you can imagine, they were so well placed and well educated. They came from such amazing backgrounds that if I had a controlling leadership style, nobody would have worked for me. Because they would be like, I earn thousands of dollars in my own company. I'm not going to have somebody dictate me. So the only way I could build my instructor network and have them work for me and grow my company was by leading it together, by giving them the credit and the support that they needed to be effective instructors, by thanking them and being grateful to them for allowing me to grow because they could devote their time to my company. And by always being their friend and creating a sense of familyhood among us. So again, remember this, leadership, a good leader will always make you feel like you're a part of their family, like you're part of their inner circle, and they make you feel good about themselves. And that's the only way you will earn employee loyalty and retention. Otherwise, people will quit. The moment they get 1,000 rupees extra, they're out of your company. Loyalty is hard to find. So when you find it, you keep it by taking care of them. So I will just end. I don't want to take any longer. I had promised that I would finish by 3. And I want to finish on time. I have also tried to inculcate the power of being disciplined and being punctual always and keeping my word so that others can build that trust in me. So I will just say to each one of you who is here today, a favorite quote that Steve Jobs always said, and I think it's very relevant to y'all because y'all are students, that stay hungry and stay foolish. Don't overanalyze, don't overthink. Just stay hungry and stay foolish and enjoy your next 4 years or 3 years in the college. And take as much as you can from it. Seize the opportunities, give respect and give the due importance to your professors, to people who are teaching you, and to your colleagues, your friends, your group mates, and try and emerge as a natural leader among them. Thank you.
Um, just just to present a formal vote of thanks, ma'am. It was really nice to have you today with us on this orientation session. And I love to hear whatever your insights had been. So I'm sure the students would have loved it. So it was really nice of you to share your experiences and your valuable insights, and it would definitely motivate the students just before they're starting their journey right now. They're not even started. So I'm sure it would motivate them a lot, and it was really nice because, ma'am, some of the experiences was like really very interesting too. So thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out your time and sharing these things. And thank you so much to all the students This last but not the least, very thankful to all the students, to our patient listeners, and who were listening to ma'am. And I hope you all loved it and would be motivated by the experiences of ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a wonderful year, guys.
Thank you, students.
Thank you. I'll leave now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pankaj,
Pankaj, you can disconnect the session.
सुबह से बैठा हूं, देखेंगे सुबह से कह रहा हूं मैं 10 बजे जाती
Pankaj, we can end the session now.
नेक्स्ट वीक में करना कॉल कर लेना